Okay, they're starting. They're starting. I don't see any. There are no comments. No comments? They're gonna have one of another press briefings with no comments. What kind of press briefing again? They shut them off. How come we don't have to get any comments? Like already? You shut us off already? Come on, Joey, come out and play. Take some questions from the live audience, eh? Come on. What are you afraid of? Afraid of answering some tough questions, are you, Joey? I got about 20 of them for you. 21 now. I've been saving them because you guys had the weekend off. So, come on. Oh, here's...
Happy Monday. Just have a couple of things for all of you at the top. First, over the weekend, the President's Homeland Security Advisor, Dr. Liz Sherwood Randall, convened a coordination call with the acting FEMA administrator and the director of the National Weather Service on the storm system moving toward the Mid-Atlantic region. It's not just moving toward, I think it's clear it's here. If you look outside of our window and up the eastern seaboard. Liz and her team joined the FEMA daily operations briefing yesterday.
Notice they're not allowing any comments?
Regular contact.
No
with the
comments?
FEMA response team about changes in the storm forecasts and any need for federal assistance.
Wow.
The White House wanted to assess the potential impact and determine any early action that the federal government can take to support communities across many states.
Okay, this is going off on. This is happening already.
Liz also proactively called governors to
but where are the
stay from
comments?
storm's path overnight and into today, and she will remain in close touch. Those include Governor Cuomo, Governor Murphy, Governor Wolf, Governor Carney, as well as New York City Mayor de Blasio. She expressed the president's intent to ensure
they went down.
Going forward among federal
There was up to 1,000, then they dropped down to like 954.
Also, as you
How do you lose likes?
Spoke with Senator Collins yesterday,
Wow.
as you all know, invited her and other Senate Republicans to the White House later this afternoon. This meeting is part of the President and his our administration's close and ongoing engagement with members of both parties and on Capitol Hill and on the American Rescue Package. Throughout those conversations, we've underscored the economic and health challenges that our country faces, issues he will, of course, be reiterating today, and the need to move swiftly to address them.
So we had 1,000, we're down to 896.
Give financially struggling families and communities a bridge and deliver on his promise to speed up vaccine delivery and defeat the virus. It's important to remember that the size of the package was designed with the size of the crisis, dual crises, as we've said, and I wanted to just call out a couple of economists and some economic data that we've seen over the last several days. A new report by the Brookings Institution estimates that with the American Rescue Plan, we could boost GDP by 4% and return our economy to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2021. A separate analysis by Moody's Analytics found that the president's plan would create 7.5 million jobs this year and double our economic growth and return our economy back to full employment 1 year faster. The IMF's chief economist said their preliminary analysis found that the plan could boost U.S. economic growth by 5% over 3 years. A couple of other just updates for you. Just today, the U.S. Conference of Mayors sent a letter to congressional leadership urging them to take immediate action on the American Rescue Plan. This letter was signed by over 400 mayors. I know there's a lot going on, so just wanted to highlight it for all of you. And West Virginia Governor Jim Justice, also a Republican, said in interviews today that he agrees that going big in this moment is critical. And last thing I just want to do before we get to your questions, I often note I'm going to circle back. I hate to disappoint conservative Twitter, but I am going to circle back on a number of things, as we often do directly. But Hurricane Maria funds, which was a question that was asked last week, the president has made clear, the status of them, I should say, that it is a priority for his administration to release this funding. We are working to do so, so that is in process. On the White House fence, which a couple of people asked about, I believe it was on Friday. Our goal, the president and the vice president's goal,
when do we get to have comments?
The Secret Service to adjust the perimeter as soon as it makes sense from an overall security
What'd you guys do?
standpoint.
Just decide no comments?
We're closely with them on that, and they, of course, would be in the lead on that front. And the last piece I just wanted to give a quick update on was there was a question about the White House's support for FEMA's request of troops. We, of course, support a whole of government pandemic response that is catering to the unique issues and needs of our states. FEMA's working in strong partnership with states to get a handle on their needs, and accordingly have requested the significant manpower in some cases for this unprecedented pandemic response effort. I expect we'll have more on this as the days continue this week.
Yeah, right. You guys wouldn't even have vaccines if it weren't for the previous administration.
I know you've been here many times before, but it's our first engagement here. Go ahead.
On the president's meeting this evening with the senators, can you give us a sense of how he views that meeting? Is it going to be negotiating? Is he going to be prepared to counter anything the Republicans might offer?
No comments.
Or is it just a session where, they ask to meet with the president and he's simply giving them an opportunity to voice their concerns?
Well, the president has been clear since long before he came into office that he's open to engaging with both Democrats and Republicans in Congress about their ideas. And this is an example of doing exactly that. So as we said in our statement last night, it's an exchange of ideas, an opportunity to do that. This group obviously sent a letter with some outlines, some top lines of their concerns and their priorities, and he's happy to have a conversation with them. What this meeting is not,
I like
is a
Kayleigh
forum for the
McEnany
president to
better.
make or accept an offer. So I think that's important to convey
The
to all of
optics
you.
on Kayleigh were way
And
better.
His view, it remains what
This girl
he
looks
stated
like
in
a
the statement last
Satanist.
night, but also what he said on Friday, which is that the risk is
Satanist
not
and
that
a
it is,
Catholic.
too
They're
big.
wonderful.
This package, the risk is that it is too small, and that remains his view, and it's one he'll certainly express today. Go ahead, Darlene.
So, what would you say is more important to the president at this point on this first legislative test? Is it going big or going bipartisan? It seems like you can't have both.
Well, I think the president believes we can, and there is historic evidence that it is possible to take a number of paths, including through reconciliation, if that's the path that is pursued, and for the vote to be bipartisan. But it's important to him that he hears this group out on their concerns, on their ideas. He's always open to making this package stronger. And he also, as was noted in our statement last night, remains in close touch with Speaker Pelosi, with Leader Schumer, and he will continue that engagement throughout the day and in the days ahead.
You mentioned that President Biden's proposed COVID relief package is designed to be commensurate with the crises. This group of 10 Senate Republicans, what they're offering, as you know, is more than a third less. The top line number, the $600 billion, is more than a third less of that $1.9 trillion that President Biden says he wants. Given that, do you see that as a serious attempt at compromise on their part?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to give more comment on their proposal. I think they put their ideas forward. That's how the president sees it. He felt it was, an effort to engage on a bipartisan basis, and that's why he invited them to the White House today. But his view is that the size of the package needs to be commensurate with the crises we're facing, the dual crises we're facing, hence why he proposed a package that's $1.9 trillion.
Does the president plan to invite Democrats into the Oval to have these similar conversations?
Well, I can promise you we're less than 2 weeks in. There will be many Democrats in the Oval Office, and I'm sure this is just the part of our ongoing effort to engage directly.
Asking that again in a slightly different way, there are Democrats who see that the first meeting the president is having face-to-face with lawmakers is with Republicans and not Democrats. Because why is the White House doing that?
Are there any specific Democrats you want to call out?
No, but it's been talked about. There's concern that
Just people talking about it in hallways? Okay.
Sure.
Well, I can assure you that Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, they have been in very close touch with the president directly and members of the senior team. He has been in touch, but also members of our senior team have been in touch with Democrats across the political spectrum, and that will continue. And there will be definitely Democrats who will be part of conversations here at the White House.
On that. You said in your statement that the scale of what must be done is large. That's bottom line. Is $618 billion considered large by the White House?
Well, I think our statement last night made clear that the president believes that the risk is not going too small, but going not big enough, and that his view is that the size of the package needs to be commensurate with the crisis we're facing. That's why he proposed $1.9 trillion. There's obviously a big gap between 600 billion and 1.9 trillion. I don't think any of us are mathematicians, otherwise we wouldn't be here, but we can all state that clearly. And so clearly, he thinks the package size needs to be closer to what he proposed than smaller.
And in that statement, you called out $1,400 relief checks, a substantial investment in fighting COVID and reopening schools, aid to small businesses and hurting families. A lot of that isn't in the Republican proposal. So why have this meeting at all if they're not even going to take seriously what he is proposing?
Well, again, Ed, this is an opportunity to exchange ideas, to have a conversation. That's why he invited them over here to the White House. He outlined the specifics of what he would like to see in the package in his speech, his primetime speech just a few weeks ago. And there are some realities as we look to what the American people are going through right now. 1 in 7 American families don't have enough food to eat, right? We're not going to have enough funding to reopen schools. We don't have enough money to ensure that we can get the vaccine in the arms of Americans. So there are some real impacts, which he will certainly reiterate as he has publicly and privately in many conversations. But they put forward some ideas. He's happy to hear from them, but he's also feels strongly about the need to make sure the size of the package meets this moment, and feels the American people expect that of their elected officials as well. Sure.
Statement the president just put out. Among other things, it says the United States is taking note of those who stand with the people of Burma in this difficult hour. Is that perhaps a message to China?
I think it's a message to all countries in the region and countries who will be asked to respond or to consider what the appropriate response will be in reaction to the events that have happened over the past couple of days.
Go ahead. Thank you. On Friday, we heard the president come out and say that while he wants to pass this bill with support from Republicans, if we can get it, it has to pass with no ifs, ands, or buts.
It's like they capped us at 1,000.
Should we take that as a sign that the president recognizes he may have to be abandoning his hopes for bipartisanship?
I think it's hardly an abandoning of bipartisanship. We're still at a phase where the House and Senate are working through, as you know, from covering Congress, the entire reconciliation, what the process would look like on the budgetary front this week. Senator Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi have both said they would also like it to be bipartisan. We'll see what comes out of this meeting today, and if there are good ideas to put forward, we'll put forward them. There's still time to do exactly that.
We'll put forward
Even
them.
If, through the parliamentary process that the Congress will decide, it moves toward reconciliation, Republicans can still vote for that, and there's certainly precedent of that in the past.
That the Republicans can still vote for the bill, obviously, even if it's done through reconciliation. But some Republican sources say that's not really bipartisanship. It doesn't satisfy that promise because it's not true compromise.
Well, I think that the 1 in 7 American families who can't put food on the table and the teachers who are waiting to ensure their schools have the ventilation, the PPE, the testing they need, they will tell you they expect their members to meet this moment. And we saw this as a good faith proposal they put forward, good faith effort to have a discussion. The president's inviting them here in good faith, and we will see where it goes from here.
What's the president's message to senators like Portman and Capito who will be here today, who have seemed to warn that if you can't get unity on this issue, it's going to be much harder to achieve down the road on other issues?
The president is confident that issues like reopening schools, getting shots in the arms of Americans, ensuring people have enough food to eat are not just Democratic issues. He takes his former Republican colleagues at their word, of course, that they're committed to these issues too, and that's why he wants to have a conversation.
Why can't we have any comments?
Thanks, Jen. I want to ask you about GameStop. Some lawmakers have proposed legislative reforms like restrictions on short selling and financial transactions tax, that the latter of which President Biden supported during the 2020 campaign. So I want to ask you now if the White House would support actions like those to address the situation.
Well, as we've noted in here several times before, but I just want to reiterate, obviously this is under the purview of the SEC in terms of their review and monitoring. But this is there is an important set of policy issues that have been raised as a result of market volatility in recent days, and we think congressional attention to these issues is appropriate and would welcome working with Congress moving forward as we dig into these further policy issues. But I don't have anything further to predict for you other than we certainly welcome the opportunity to work with members who have proposed ideas.
Has there been any direct engagement with those members so far and what they proposed?
I don't have anything to read out for you on that front. Obviously, we're engaged at a variety of levels every day with a range of offices on a number of issues. But I don't have anything more for you on that.
And lastly, one more on this. Sorry, so there's no confirmed members right now on the Financial Stability Oversight Council, and is the White House view that lack of officials in place is affecting your administration's approach to this situation?
Well, again, the SEC is looking carefully at recent activities, and if they're consistent with investor protection and fair and efficient markets, that's where we think the purview is and the focus is at this point in time.
If I can ask one follow-up on the meeting with the Republicans, and then I'll follow up on the first question as well. What is the timeline that the president sees for these negotiations to end? What is how urgent is this? If these benefits are going to end in the middle of March, how much time is there to have these kinds of meetings, as you say, with Democrats and others that may want to take part?
It's incredibly urgent, and as you noted, there is. There are timelines coming up, I should say, in terms of when the Americans who are applying for unemployment insurance will no longer be able to get access. As I noted earlier, 1 in 7 American families can't put food on the table. We need to plan for how we're going to get more vaccines in the arms of Americans. We need to have funding to help public schools have the preparations needed to reopen. So there is urgency. This is what the president is spending his time on, as evidenced by the meeting later today, and what the majority of our senior team is focused on at this moment. But there is still time to make changes, to continue to have a discussion, and that's why we're kind of escalating the number of meetings and engagements we're having through the course of this week.
Vern, if I can, on the president's statement that he put out, he says the reversal of progress will necessitate an immediate review of our sanctions laws and authorities, followed by appropriate action. Is the appropriate action related solely to sanctions, or what other type of response may be on the table?
Well, I think that's why that was called out in the president's comments. As you know, we removed sanctions, the United States, I should say, removed sanctions on Burma over the past decade based on progress toward democracy. The reversal of that progress will necessitate an immediate review of our sanctions laws and authorities, followed by appropriate action. So that's why he called it out. I don't have any additional steps beyond that to predict for you at this point in time.
Some Democrats are hoping to repeal the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions in the COVID bill. Does the president support those insertions, and more broadly, does he support a general repeal of that deduction?
The president supports Democrats and Republicans putting good ideas forward and having a discussion about them and determining how we move forward with urgency to get this plan passed. But I'm not going to negotiate from here.
So, Senator Manchin was a little upset with some comments the vice president made on a local television show. Has the White House reached out to him in any way to kind of clear the air?
We've been in touch with Senator Manchin, as we have been for many weeks, and will continue to be moving forward. And not only is he a key partner to the president and to the White House on this package, but on his agenda, and we will remain in close touch with him.
Question, Obama. In regards to Myanmar, what if any efforts are being made to coordinate a response with allies such as Japan, EU, and Britain? And has there been any contacts with China to discuss the situation?
1.2. We're pulling ahead. We're pulling ahead.
We have had intensive consultations.
The dislikes are pulling ahead.
And partners in the region and
Watch
around
the
the world.
spread. Watch the spread
I would
increase
expect
now.
Many of those will come through the State Department, so I'd certainly refer to them for more specifics. Hans.
Yeah, if I could just follow Burma. In your statement last night, when you said you might take action, you referred to it as Burma and Myanmar. Mm-hmm. And in the president's statement just now, he only uses Burma. Is that indicative of a formal shift of the United States government on how we are to refer to that Southeast Asian country?
Well, our official policy is that we say Burma, but use Myanmar as a courtesy in certain communications. So, for example, the embassy website refers to Burma, Myanmar, because they are, by definition, dealing with officials and the public. The State Department website uses Burma, Myanmar in some places, and Burma in others.
So there's no official change. You last night used both, and the president goes 4 times with Burma. Was he meaning to be discourteous?
I don't think that's the conclusion you should draw. Certainly he is watching this closely, as is evidenced by his statement. Go ahead.
Can you
said there's still time for negotiation. Can you be a little bit more specific? Is the president going to give this 1 week, 2 weeks to try to come up with a bipartisan solution? And then secondly, the CBO said this morning that the economy should return to pre-pandemic levels by that mid-year, even if there's not additional legislation. So how does that assessment affect what your effective negotiations? So on the first, I'm not going to give a deadline here other than to say that it is urgent we move forward for all the reasons we've already been discussing, including the need to ensure families can put food on the table, the need to ensure we have time to plan.
Cut out for a second here.